Hey guys, welcome back to the Ad Lib Podcast. Today is episode number 92. I think there was no sound this time either. Damn it. I'm going to have to fix it for next week. How's it going, Joe?
I'm good, thank you, my friend. How are you doing?
Not bad at all. Today is going to be quite a quiet show, right, Joe? Nothing like big coming out. Like last week we had Joker, although to be honest, it's funny now calling it big.
Yeah. I mean, you say nothing big. I did get to see The Wild Robot, so I do get to wax lyrical a bit about that. But I actually don't think that film is going to do well.
Box
Unfortunately,
office wise.
yeah, I think it's not going to be a success. Similar to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I mean, it might have the Inside Out 2 effect, where somehow it just picks up ahead of steam and does really well. When I went to see it, it was Full House kind of thing. Okay, it was parents with their children and then just me, but it was a full house.
Fair enough. To be honest with you, I was reading an article about how both Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot haven't made, I don't know what percentage of Inside Out 2.
No, they haven't done well at all. And like Transformers, I guess you expect it to do well just because of the name it has attached to it. You know,
That's the thing.
and
And Chris
unfortunately,
Hemsworth.
yeah, The Wild Robot has nothing attached to it. Yes, it's based on a children's novel, but I had no idea it was based on a children's novel before I went in to see it. So
That's Lupita Nyong'o.
yeah, Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, Bill Nye,
She's
Mark
directing
Hamill.
it as well, or just voicing it?
No, the great Chris Sanders writes and directs it. So
Okay,
he's
okay,
had
okay,
his
okay.
hands in everything. He wrote Mulan, he directed Lilo and Stitch, he did How to Train Your Dragon, like huge name in animation. So it's a shame that I don't think it's going to do well. Or hasn't done well so far, because it's been out in the States for a while.
But to be honest, probably then once the Oscars hit and maybe gets a re-release, maybe it'll do some more money then.
Hopefully,
Usually
I
do
mean,
that way.
yeah, it's meant to release on streaming in the next couple of days, apparently. It's not confirmed, but a lot of leakers have said probably the 18th it will release. So that's what, this Thursday?
The 18th is Friday. This
Friday.
Yep.
So maybe it has another life on streaming. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully, one could hope. But so to introduce today's episode, no new trailers, no big new trailers. Joe, I want to talk to you about this. We're going to kind of like tone it down on the trailers and just focus on the big ones. And there's nothing big this week.
Fine by
With
me.
regard to news,
I don't like watching trailers, and I miss most of them anyway. So
yeah. So I think it's better just to focus on the really big ones, right? Make it the really big ones. With regard to news, obviously, for those of you who clicked on the thumbnail, we've got the box office this week to talk about. I wanted to talk about the box office because there's a very interesting thing that happened this week. It's two clowns fighting over who wins the box office, and let's say the less well-known Arthur the Clown gets to win the battle, which is for me absolutely shocking. Shocking, and we'll get into that later on, of course, and how the disaster that has been Joker 2 and its box office with its record fall. After that, we've got a bunch of reviews. We'll start off with the TV stuff. We've got Agatha All Along episode 5. We've got The Penguin episode 4, which just released last night. Disclaimer, the first 2 episodes of that came out on Apple TV+. I'll talk about that later on. Then Joe will talk about The Wild Robot. And we can both, and maybe Franco will join us as well, talk about its What's Inside, which released last week. I had no idea it even existed, but I saw a TikTok about it, and I'm like, this is one of the best movies of the year, and it's out on Netflix, and no one knows about it. I'm like, oh shit, okay, that sounds cool.
yeah.
And obviously, we both checked it out. And Bruce said, can't wait to see Joker 2. Oh, Bruce, you haven't watched Joker 2 yet? You should check out our review then from last week. But careful, there's a bit of spoilers. So watch the film first.
Yeah.
And check out the review.
Yeah. We did warn about the spoilers, to be fair, but
That's true. Anyways, Joe, how has your week been so far? What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
my week has been fairly busy work-wise, because we had our first home game in a while over at Edinburgh Rugby, but I have been watching quite a few things. As mentioned, I got to see The Wild Robot, and I watched It's What's Inside also. I don't know if I mentioned last week that I watched Oddity. I think I did mention that I watched Oddity last week. Where I've really fallen back is on the TV. I'm not up to date with The Penguin. I haven't seen episode 3 and I haven't seen episode 4. So I do need to really kind of bring it home with that. But I've actually been playing more games than I normally would. And that's like the usual game I play, which I probably play every other night, is Predecessor with my friends. But I've been doing more solo gaming, which is I've restarted Alan Wake 2 again, because that game is a masterpiece. And just for the time of year, it gives me the vibes that I want. But also, those of us who have PlayStation Plus, we were treated with the Dead Space remake as a free game this month on PlayStation Plus. And I haven't played that game since the original PS3 one. I remember I had it and I loved it, and then I lent it to a friend, and then I never saw it again, unfortunately. Those things happen. It's fine. It was back in 2013, I think, or even earlier than that. But I mean, you're seeing the scores on screen there. It is a fantastic remake, what it's done. I love the fact that, so like I've probably played like maybe 3 or 4 hours of it so far. It's just as jump scary and scary in general as I remember, but it's just the ambience. Like nothing kind of has managed to recreate this in a game so far. Probably the closest thing would be like Alien Isolation, of that really terrifying alien terror. But I like that this is its own thing. It's got like, you can now see it being older and knowing these things. You can see bits of like Event Horizon in it for sure.
Yeah.
And stuff it's doing there, especially with all the stuff around the marker. You just saw there now in this one, Isaac Clarke actually has a face and he's got voice lines, which he did not have in the original. And it's a really good choice because it makes him much more of an endearing character to play as. And I'm having a great time so far. It looks incredible. The sound is ridiculous. I've been playing it with my good headphones on, and like I'm jumping out of my skin at certain points. So if anyone has a PlayStation 5 and they have PlayStation Plus, I can't recommend this one enough. It is spooky season after all.
Yep.
And it's just a great survival action horror to sink your teeth into. And it's not that long. I mean, the old one had taken me, I think, 10 to 12 hours to beat. There's a bit more to do in this one. Like there's more reason to go back and explore certain areas, and they've changed certain things with that. But it's just a great game. This is a fantastic remake, and I really, really hope we get Dead Space 2 now.
Yep, the remake for that as well. There's 3, right, in total?
Yes, but 3 sucks.
I don't know nothing about 3, to be honest with you.
3, it was, they released it maybe a year after 2, and EA was really pushing multiplayer at the time, and they tried to turn it into like a multiplayer shooter, and it was just a bit of a disaster.
Fair enough. It usually happens with EA.
Yeah.
Can't have too much of a good thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, but this studio they have, Motive, are very, very good. They had done all the flying parts on Star Wars Battlefront 2, which despite being one of the most controversial games ever made, I'm actually a big fan of that game, because then the team at DICE that came together with Motive to fix the issues in that game with the progression system and stuff like that, it actually became a really great game eventually, with a really good community and a very good community manager who would engage with the fans on Reddit a lot. And they got a lot of what they wanted. Like every character that they wanted ended up in the game. And then Motive also did Star Wars Squadrons, which was just like the X-Wing and TIE Fighter game. Also loads of fun. So they're a good studio. I think now I want to see them do their own thing and maybe branch out.
You know what? Controversial opinion. I also agree that Battlefront 2 was a very good game.
Once they fixed the sinful pay-to-win stuff, and they made it about can just play the game and you get stuff. It was fantastic.
Because
it looked amazing. Yeah, it was. I remember I was one of those poor people at the time, because I was just excited for Star Wars stuff. I decided to pre-order the game, and then I got access to like the beta like a week before the game, and I'm like, what the hell have they done here? Like, this is ridiculous. But then the good thing was, immediately from launch, they took out the loot boxes immediately, and they were gone. But they were like, look, for the next month or two, the progression system is going to be broken, but because we need to rebuild it from the ground up, because this is not really what we ever wanted to do. This was pushed on us by the big wigs at EA. Very clear that it was. But as I said, it became really great as time went on. Like, we got to play as Anakin from that time period in the Clone Wars. Obi-Wan made it into the game, General Grievous, Count Dooku, like all the characters that people wanted ended up in the game, and they were fun, and there were skins. All the stuff from the newer films made it in as well. And I'm actually really sad that we didn't get a Battlefront 3.
True.
But we'll see. Star Wars is in a weird place at the moment. The only thing they seem to be caring about games-wise is like the Jedi stuff. And I know we just had Outlaws, but that probably didn't make as much as a splash as they wanted it to. I know there's the makers of Detroit Become Human that are making something in the Star Wars world, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Apparently, the Knights of the Old Republic remake is still happening.
It is? Oh, good.
Yeah, apparently,
Okay.
yeah.
We take it.
I'll take it because unfortunately, I've never managed to actually finish that game because I haven't tried on this PC that I've had, but the last PC that I did have, it just got to a point where the game would stop working and I didn't know how to fix it. And I'm really upset because everyone says like that's one of the best Star Wars stories you can ever play. So hopefully we'll get a remake in the next couple of years and hopefully it'll actually be good.
Yep. I'd take that, definitely. And I also quite enjoyed Star Wars Outlaws, but obviously the majority of fans definitely did not seem to like it. Let's put it that way. Reviewers were a little more forgiving, but the fans, oh boy, did they hate it. But yeah, that's its own can of worms. Anything else, Joe? You want to talk about?
No, I don't believe so. If anything comes to me, I'm sure I'll let everyone know. I think that's just me. What have you been watching?
So here's my letterbox diary. I like to use that to to remember. So I've mostly been watching stuff I have for my film adaptations course now. So that's why most of the books, the films here are mostly based on books. Red Desert I very much liked. Really, really enjoyed that. That's a Michelangelo Antonioni film based on a book. Very good, great composition. The colors are amazing. That's a highly recommend checking out this film, Red Desert. It's very, very good. Had a good, nice little rewatch of Blade Runner.
Yes, I liked your little video with that. I still disagree with your rating of it, but I did like your video of that.
It's a 5 for you, Joe.
It's the hardest 5 to ever five, in my opinion. But I have like a visceral, deep connection with that film. It's probably the one that like started all of this cinema stuff for me. So
fair enough.
It's the only film that hasn't left my top 4 on Letterboxd ever.
Okay, fair enough. Like I said, it's just a tiny bit too slow for me at times. So small moments where he takes his foot off the pedal, kind of breaks a little bit.
Have you seen any of the other cuts apart from the final cut?
No, I've only ever watched the director's cut.
They're interesting. I'll say that much.
I've heard about them though. I know more or less.
Yeah.
I'm not watching the one with the narration. No fucking way.
Oh, that one's kind of cool.
I refuse to watch the one with the narration. Really?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it doesn't work, but it's definitely interesting.
Is it true? Because I heard that apparently Harrison Ford didn't want the narration.
No, have you seen the documentary about Blade Runner? It's like a 2-part, 4.5-hour documentary. It's really good.
No, I watched a YouTube video about it, but that's it. No, I watched like a 20-minute YouTube video about the making and everything, and that's it. No. It's true though that Harrison Ford didn't want the narration, so he read it out in a very bored tone so that they wouldn't use it, and they still used it anyways. Oh God, what a man. Yeah. But Rutger Hauer, oh God, he's insane. That monologue he has near the end of the film,
unbelievable.
Where the fuck did that come from? I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Every time I watch that scene, I'm always reminded, like, this is one of the coldest moments of cinema ever. Yeah, that's good stuff. I watched Singing in the Rain again with my girlfriend, with Tristian. That's so much fun, man. That film, really so much fun, and great meta commentary as well about cinema. To be honest, with Singing in the Rain, obviously, and talkies and whatnot. Obviously, I watched It's What's Inside. This one is an interesting one, Joe. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. So this is an adaptation, obviously, of the Bronte book, Wuthering Heights by Yoshida.
I haven't seen this one. I've seen many of like the English language adaptations, but I haven't seen this.
I haven't watched any of his films, but I've heard this is very good. Eros Massacre, plus Massacre. I've heard it's very, very good. It's on my watch list. But we have this for our film adaptation. There is the 1939 version, which I haven't watched. I don't think I've watched the 1939 version of Wuthering Heights. This version is very good, though. I love how it uses the setting of Japan and again his camera work and his framing, and this is just excellent. It's just really, I felt like I was learning how to frame a shot with this film. It's very good, and the performances are also excellent.
We're getting another adaptation now from Emerald Fennell.
Yes, just as I looked it up, yeah, that popped up, and that should be another wild take.
I'm interested to see what that's going to be like. I saw an adaptation with Tom Hardy, like I think it was the TV adaptation years ago, like in the mid 2000s.
Okay. I know. Then there's the other movie, the 98 movie. Which one? With the, no, late, much earlier than that. With the song, the famous Wuthering Heights song. Wow, Madonna.
Yeah.
With Kate Bush, with the Kate Bush song. My girlfriend loves that version. But in this case, I highly recommend checking this out because it's just an excellently made film. It's hard to find a good copy of this though, because I found it on YouTube, and it's not very clear on YouTube, unfortunately. And it's a big pity because the visuals for this film are excellent and really, really essential for the storytelling. But yeah, this is a great film, Wuthering Heights. I also checked out Heavenly Creatures, which is the Peter Jackson film. We had commented about it last week, I believe. And I was really impressed, really impressed. It's funny to see so many camera techniques that he would then use in The Lord of the Rings, like the helicopter over the top shot, like the first person shots, so many first person shots where you've got the running and the camera's kind of like hitting the trees and the leaves and whatnot. We use it a lot in Lord of the Rings as well. The panning shot, he loves to pan a lot. Really very well made film. And at the start I was like, what's going on with Kate Winslet, like, and her performance, and Melanie Linsky? And then I got it, and then I'm going, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I get what's going on here. Did you like it, Joe?
I did, but it's been a while since I've seen it. That was one I think I must have watched like with my parents when I was like 13 or 14. I want to say. So I was very young.
But very good film, and really brings out like the relationship between the two girls excellently. I think it portrayed, and I love this scene where they're running away from Orson Welles.
Yeah,
I was almost in tears watching it. I was like, what the hell is going on? But Jackson does it so well, and even the fantasy scenes, they're really well done. They're really well done. You can tell Jackson has a great hold on like visuals, and his team of are just excellent on this. And the camera is so, constantly moving. And it really brings out like their state of mind with that camera excellently. And the last one I think might be the most controversial. I gave it a 3.5. This is a Pasolini film, Oedipus Rex, obviously based on the Oedipus Rex play. It's an interesting one. I enjoyed parts of it, but I felt like in other parts where like it loses itself a little bit in the whole, because it starts as a film set in the 1920s and then goes way back in time and turns into a period piece basically. And there are moments when it just loses itself a little bit in the period piece of it all. And I will admit the most important scenes are excellent. Like its climax is brilliantly portrayed by Franco Citti and Silvano Mangano. The start is also very strong. The opening 10 minutes are brilliant, but there are long parts in the middle part of this film where I just completely lost me and lost my attention. But it's well worth checking out as well. Still, I'd say Pasolini has much better films. For example, I have recently watched his Accattone, which I believe is not his first, but one of his first. Accattone is an excellent film. I think this is a brilliant film and a must-watch for anyone interested at all in post-war Italy. And I gave it a 5 out of 5 because the emotions it brought out of me were excellent. I'm still missing out on a few. I've watched also the very infamous Salo, which is a film, definitely, but I'm still missing out.
You know, I actually haven't seen that.
No? Oh, Joe.
No, it's been on my list for a while. I think I just need to rip the Band-Aid off on it.
Joe, I don't know if I can recommend it. It's something.
That's what everyone's told me. Yeah.
Like as a cinephile, it's just something you have to get through, and then you can bravely and proudly say, "Yes, I have watched Salo."
Yeah, fuck it, I'll do it.
But Joe, trust me, I warned you. Okay, I warned you. But it's a film. It's a film. Let's put it that way.
It's definitely a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much my... And then obviously the shows, right? Like I said at the start, I got all along, caught up on that. Penguin episode 4, watched it today, and disclaimer, all of those we'll talk about later on. So before we get into the news and the box office, Joe, let's remind our viewers and listeners, don't forget to leave a like if you are enjoying this podcast, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so already. And thank you to all the 7 viewers here live, spending their evening with the Ad Lib Podcast right now. And with that, let's get into the first and only, I guess, big news of the day, because I was shocked when this popped up. It's been coming, right? Lots of predictions have been there that Terrifier 3 is going to beat Joker 2. But finding out that Joker 2 had an 82% drop, I remember reading. I don't know where it is, but it had like an 82% drop. Is insane. Sorry. So, no, that's the Marvels. Oh my God.
I read somewhere that in its second weekend, it's made as much money as Beetlejuice made in its 6th weekend.
Oh my Lord.
Which
That's
is
bad. That is really bad. I mean, Beetlejuice, to be fair, did very well at the box office, so that's a big success story. But Joker 2. So, where we were. So, Joker 2 Fall is also nearly the worst drop in history for a film opening in more than 2,000 locations. To closer to 6.7 million to 6.8 million, meaning it would come in 4th behind fellow Warner's. So it's 4th.
Yeah.
It's behind Beetlejuice now. What the hell? Like, this is insane. Overseas, Folie also fell off steeply, earning 22.7 million from 77 markets for a foreign total of 113.7 million and 165.3 million globally. That's awful. For a film that cost, you remember how much it cost, Joe?
I'm gonna say close to 120 million.
Yeah, so that it needs to make at least double that, right? To kind of like pull off at least break even, and it's definitely not going to break even, because with the word of mouth and I always laugh at that cinema score.
No, its budget was 200 million.
Oh my Lord! Okay, so that's even worse. So it needs to make 400 million, maybe not 400. Let's say 350 million. But
to be a success, 400 to maybe break even, it needs to make 330 plus.
There is no way it's making. It's not even hitting 200 at this pace.
Yeah,
there's no way it hits 200. If it's made 165 and it dropped down with like 80%, there's no way. And Joe, what do you think about that cinema score thing, the rating? Because I laugh at it, but it's so successful in predicting the coming weeks. It's insane how well they predict film. I always laugh at it.
As in cinema score, isn't that from when people see it and they give it a score on the way out, and then that becomes a cinema score? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's predictive of anything, but I guess if something is getting a negative cinema score, less people are going to go and watch it.
But like, for example, with the Mad Max, with Furiosa, that had a very low cinema score rating. Not low, but lowish for how good the film was. I was like, what the fuck? Who's rating this thing? But then its box office progressively was pretty bad for a film of that stature.
Yes, its box office was not good at all, Furiosa.
So maybe it's not great at gauging how good a film is, but I think it's very good at gauging how well it's going to do progressively in the box office, because if people are not liking it, they're not going to go watch it again. Right? That's how I'm looking at it.
Or I don't know how many people there are caring about the cinema score, and they're seeing it and they're going, look, I'm not going to go and watch this film now, which is a shame. Yeah. But I guess for regular cinema goers, the people I know who I would call regular cinema goers, what they're caring about is the Rotten Tomatoes rating and maybe IMDb. Yeah, we don't have cinema score in this country, so
yeah. Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb definitely, and Joker is not doing well in either of those. So
no, but like it's really this whole thing is fascinating, even with Terrifier 3, because with Joker failing, we have the previous film made a mean $1 billion at the box office, which for a rated R movie is already pretty unprecedented. But for, I guess, a rated R psychological drama, it did have the boost of being based on an extremely famous character from a very, very well-known IP. But you would assume, just based off that people would go and see it anyway because of how popular the first one was. But I think with this one, probably things like Cinema Score did contribute to it, but the negative press it got before it even came out, and that negative press was very hard to avoid, even for regular people. And then I think people that did go and see it were very, very vocal about how much they didn't like it. Like, I've met a lot of people at work who have gone to watch the film. They've watched my review of it, and they've been like, what the hell are you on about? Joker Folie is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yep.
And if they're telling those nearest and dearest to them, it's the worst movie I've ever seen, those people probably aren't going to watch it. And then if those people's friends ask them, oh, do you want to go and watch Joker Folie? They're saying, no, a friend of mine said it's the worst movie he's ever seen. And I think it just snowballs from there. And then the fascinating thing we have with Terrifier 3 and the Terrifier franchise as a whole. Now, I've never seen the Terrifier films. I plan to actually get to them and now watch them. They had this huge cult following from the short film, which then became a feature. And then the sequel just made the following almost triple in size, where people were really into this killer clown in these really, really gory films, which are basically just like huge murder fests. And the hype for the third one was huge. Like, I follow a lot of people on social media who are particularly ingrained in kind of like horror cinema, and it was all they were waiting for. And now it's managed to make its way into the mainstream somehow. Like, even to the point where, didn't they put Art the Clown in Call of Duty as a skin?
Yes, they did.
That's ridiculous, putting a horror mascot who is, maybe 10 years old and was only popular in the last 2 years, really, into one of the biggest video games on Earth. And I kind of love it, because now Art the Clown is alongside the likes of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. Like, for me, I love these kinds of like horror icons that we have. And I think it's really cool that they've managed to make this low budget film into this gigantic phenomenon in a way. So I really love that. And I love that that's doing well, and they're doing it at the right time of year, and it's really finding an audience. So that's really cool. And it's just fascinating that it's come out at around the same time as a clown who is much more popular than Art the Clown, but he's murdering him at the box office.
Yep. Indeed. So yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Terrifier 3 is doing way better than people predicted, ahead of expectations, with an estimated 18.2 million, which I don't know what the budget was for Terrifier 3, but I imagine it wasn't a very big budget. So, because these films are made for cheap as hell. Apart from that, another interesting thing, and we'll conclude with this, is The Apprentice. So I've been looking forward to The Apprentice. Hasn't no predicted release date here in Malta, but apparently it's open to an estimated 1.6 million, which is very disappointing for a film about Trump. You would imagine a film about Trump would somehow
you'd assume at least
some traction.
Every Democrat would go and watch it at least.
Which leads one to think, which demographic is this film appealing to? Because I don't think Democrats really are interested in going to watch a film about Trump as much as they hate him. And obviously Republicans are not going to go watch a hit piece on Trump either.
No.
So that leads me to think, who's this film marketed for?
Yeah, I think what's happening, we need to take the time of year into account with the box office at this period in particular. Like, films that have done well already, as you mentioned, Beetlejuice, Terrifier 3 is now doing well. Speak No Evil did very well, I believe, as well, in its release. Granted, they pushed that film to death with its marketing. I think I watched that trailer in cinemas for like 6 months. But we are in October. People know that Halloween is approaching. If they see anything that is of the horror ilk, they're probably going to go and watch it. Like, I have no doubt that Smile 2 is probably going to do very well at the box office.
100%.
And things like that. So it's risky putting your film now in, like, to release in this time period. And like, The Apprentice hasn't really gotten any word of mouth. Like, you and I are involved in this kind of world, and we take in film news all the time. I can't tell you whether I've heard The Apprentice is good or not, because I haven't really seen all that much about it. I still want to go and watch it, because the one thing I have heard is that apparently Sebastian Stan is really, really great in it. But other than that, I haven't heard much about it. I've seen a few bits of the director actually hopes that Donald Trump watches his film. But yeah, I think at this point in time, this time of year, where now the winter is hitting hard, people want to go to the cinema for that kind of more spooky vibe and get into the holiday spirit, for lack of a better term. And they just want to go to be entertained. That's why films, I think, like Speak No Evil and I think like Smile 2 are going to do very, very well.
Exactly. And even Saturday Night is not doing great as well at the box office.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm looking forward to watching that. Oh, that comes later on.
Yeah, I have no real relation to Saturday Night Live as a whole. I find Jason Reitman to be very, very hit and miss with his films. But I did listen to the Big Picture podcast episode about Saturday Night and the way they spoke about it. And those guys are big fans of Saturday Night Live in general. And they're like, look, like, it's pretty good. It's fine. They're like, if you know anything about Saturday Night Live, you'll probably be a little bit disappointed, but like, it's totally fine. So I don't know if I'll go out to watch it or I'll just wait for it to hit streaming. I haven't really decided on that yet.
Oh, Francesca, 100%. Because Francesca said, I wonder whether they chose the release date in a bit of a strategic political move a month before elections. I'm sure they 100% expected this film to make better money with the election coming up now.
All everyone cares about is a killer clown right now.
Apparently. And that's pretty much it with regard to news. So viewers and listeners, if you are enjoying the podcast, please don't forget to leave a like on the video and please don't forget to subscribe. And let us know, have you been to the cinema to watch Terrifier 3? If there are only Maltese viewers in the cinema and the podcast, definitely your answer is no, because there is no sight of Terrifier 3 coming out in Malta.
It's not going to release at all?
Nothing at all so far.
Damn, KRS dropping the ball again.
100%. Like, they need someone advising them. They really need someone advising them on what's going to be a hit and what isn't.
At this time of year, again, just release horror films. It is the safest genre of films for people to go and watch at any time of the year, especially now.
And they're so cheap to acquire as well.
Yeah.
Why? Like, it's such an obvious win. 18 and 19-year-olds will be flooding the cinema to go watch it because they see a killer clown. Yeah. Like, that is the most obvious Saturday night film before Parcheville. Like, it's such an obvious... I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, let's get into the review. So we've got a bunch of TV, which we'll skim through very quickly. Agatha All Along, The Penguin, and Disclaimer. Well, I'll skim through these because Joe hasn't watched any of these.
No.
And then Joe will do his The Wild Robot review, and then we'll talk about It's What's Inside to conclude. So, viewers and listeners, let's get into the first one. No spoilers for the shows, don't worry. There are not going to be any spoilers here. But I'm going to start off, first up, with Agatha All Along, because it's the one I have least to say about. As people know on this podcast, I've been quite positive about it. Actually, I'm curious to see what's the IMDb score for Agatha All Along. That's a little harsh. I think to be fair, 7 is solid. 7 is solid. But yeah, I've been enjoying Agatha All Along. I've been enjoying it very much. I know there's been some haters of Agatha All Along who are judging it already prior to the show releasing. But surprisingly enough, as a show, it's actually been visually very well done. I think it's one of probably the best lit, if not the best lit Disney show I've seen in a very long time, especially the Marvel stuff, especially the Marvel stuff. The trials are interesting. There are some very good actors and actresses in this, especially the one on screen right now, Aubrey Plaza, who's brilliant. I'm very much also enjoying the storyline with the Teen. I don't know the name of the actor, Joe Locke, who I feel like I've seen him in a few other things as well. Joe Locke.
Was he in The Fall of the House of Usher? I want to say he was, but I don't think he was.
He only has Agatha All Along and Heartstopper. I feel like I've seen him before. I don't know why. I really do feel like I've seen him in something else before. Obviously, there's Catherine Hahn having the time of her life as Agatha Harkness. And overall, I highly recommend checking out this series. Every episode ends with quite a strong conclusion. And this one especially has a very, very strong conclusion with a nice little twist in episode 5. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, there's some very good stuff happening between, especially the dynamic between Agatha Harkness, Teen, and obviously Rio Vidal, that is Aubrey Plaza's character. There's a really nice tension between Rio Vidal and Agatha Harkness. I think Catherine Hahn and Aubrey Plaza have very, very, very good chemistry between the two, and the sexual tension there is solid stuff. So yeah, highly recommend checking out episode 5 and check out the whole thing, to be honest. If you at all enjoyed WandaVision, if you didn't enjoy WandaVision, forget it. Don't even try watching this. But if you enjoyed watching WandaVision and you really like your witches stuff and your witchcraft, not too much witchcraft, to be honest. There's small elements here and there with regard to the magic stuff, but it delves into other elements like potion making, like curses, and so on. And yeah, I can tell there's a team behind it who are very passionate about what they're making, in contrast to a lot of other Marvel shit we've gotten recently, which always helps, right? This is basically the creative team that worked on WandaVision. And you can really tell, like creator, production designers, lots of actual sets. That helps as well to have actual sets and not just green screens behind the actors. Pretty much everything is practical in this show, except for a few touches here and there. And, that's always a good thing. Talking about very good shows. Oh, my God. Look at that IMDb rating. Oh, my God. Okay, maybe this is a bit too much. But this has a 9.6, this episode 4.
Ooh.
And, okay, it's an excellent episode. It's an excellent episode. But 9.6, I think, is a little... Like episode 3, what was the rating for episode 3? Oh yeah, 9.1.
The people have spoken, apparently.
Yeah, people love Penguin. And I love the Penguin. I'm really enjoying the Penguin. Episode 4 focuses very much on a character who has completely surprised me, and for the good, and that is Sofia Falcone, and that is Christine Miliotti's character. Christine Miliotti is just, oh my God, where has she come from? And I know she had her roles, right? She had some small roles here and there.
I know her from How I Met Your Mother.
Wait, How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah, she was the mother in the final season.
Oh God,
that's the first time I ever saw her, and that's like what, 12 years ago now.
Yeah, I watched How I Met Your Mother. I watched the whole thing.
And she had a small role in Wolf of Wall Street. She was very good in Palm Springs as well.
She was the first wife, right?
Yeah, she was Jordan Belfort's original wife.
Yeah, I remember her in that as well. She had a very sad role in Wolf of Wall Street. Fargo, Palm Springs. So she has some pretty interesting shows. But this is her. I'm sure this is going to be like her big breakout role, right? This is definitely going to be her big breakout role. And like I said in the TikTok I just uploaded a while ago. I have to upload it on Instagram as well. I forgot. This is her Emmy episode. When they they always have to choose an episode to be nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah.
This is the episode that they're going to use for Christine Miliotti's Best Supporting Actress Emmy, because she is killing it. And in this episode, we see a lot of backstory behind Sofia Falcone's character. And if you had told me prior that there would be a whole episode in which we barely at all see Oz, I'd be like, what are they doing? But having watched it, I'm like, yes.
You would like The Last of Us, you would have called it nice filler.
No, this is not nice filler though, Joe. No. No, this is not nice filler at all. It's great stuff. And I just want to emphasize how important it is that you have a team who really understand what genre of show they are making. Because this is well and truly a crime drama. This is well and truly a crime drama. There is nothing at all which you'd ever notice is comic book related here. Unless of course it's called The Penguin. If you just switch this on HBO and you have a 70-year-old fan of The Sopranos, turns on HBO, oh, let me check out what's on HBO at 9. And you have no idea at all what the hell and who the hell is Penguin. And you see this and you're like, oh my God, this is really good stuff. that 70-year-old massive fan of Goodfellas and whatever will have no idea that this is at all related to a comic book. And again, I love my comic book stuff, but the creators here wanted to create a true crime drama show. And it hits all those nice little genre touches of the mafia crime drama show. Great performances, as always. Colin Farrell, like I said, Christian Milioti as well is excellent. But I have to praise also the guy who has replaced who was Falcone in the original?
Falcone was John Turturro.
John Turturro, the guy who replaced John Turturro, Mark Strong, whom
Mark Strong is a fantastic actor.
I had no idea that was Mark Strong.
Yeah.
I had not a clue. And can I say that Mark Strong, recently, I've seen him in a few shows recently where he's been really typecast into the same British kind of like leader of a team. And he's really been typecast. But here, this is a great role for him because he's completely hidden. I had no idea this was Mark Strong in the role. This is great stuff. Episode 4 is mostly flashbacks, lots and lots of flashbacks. There's some really strong dramatic stuff. The direction, so intense when it needs to be. I found some scenes very disturbing. I found some scenes and I'm not the kind of guy who's ever afraid of shows and movies. I'm rarely ever affected. But there were some scenes in this and some of the stuff that I saw happen where I was genuinely disturbed by what was going on. And I felt like, oh my God, it really hit hard. Intense direction. The camera work is brilliant in those scenes. The music, again, so intense in some of those scenes. The narrative and the dialogue is so good. And everything has a consequence. Everything you see happening on screen where you're like, okay, that person is doing a shitty thing. Okay, yeah, there's a consequence for that. And that is so important. I cannot stop praising the screenplay for this show because, it's just great stuff. And the question now is, we have, I believe, 8 episodes in total. 8 episodes in total. Is this going to challenge Shogun for #1 show of the year? It's got its work cut out because Joe, both you and myself love. Absolutely adore Shogun.
I suppose it's pretty lucky that the Emmys have already come and gone for Shogun. I mean, Shogun, I think, won 14 Emmys.
Yeah.
To be the most awarded show in history. So it's
Yeah.
probably pretty lucky that's the case.
Yeah. And it would be unfair on both to be fighting with each other because you've got like best of the past 10 years show, basically. Maybe with Succession as an exception.
And Barry, put some respect on the name.
But I haven't watched Barry. Sorry, Joe.
You should do that. Everyone should do that. Anyone listening, go watch Barry right now.
By the way, talking about shows which I have never watched, I just downloaded Evangelion.
Wow. Okay.
That's out there, right? Because I'm going to Japan, so there's the Universal Studios has some rides. There's apparently an Evangelion ride, apparently. So I really want to check it out. I've heard very good stuff about it. But I'm not like everyone very well knows. I'm not much of an anime guy, so it's going to be an interesting ride. Have you heard anything about it, Joe? I don't know if you've checked it out.
I mean, a lot of my friends are absolute like anime dorks. I don't know if they're big into Evangelion, but more things like Berserk and Attack on Titan, One Piece, they're very big on. So no, I don't really know anything about it.
Have you watched Berserk, Joe? Because everyone talks about how if you love Dark Souls, you're going to love this.
Yes. Yes, absolutely yes.
I need to download that as well.
I've seen the movies of Berserk, and they're very, very, very good.
Oh, nice.
And I've watched. I need to watch the last season of Attack on Titan as well. But that's about as far as my anime chops go.
You know the sad thing about Attack on Titans, I was loving it, and then I stopped for some reason. I have not a clue why. If you had to ask me why did you stop Attack on Titan, I'll tell you I have no idea because I was loving it.
I had stopped because it took them like 3 years to make a season.
No, but I stopped before. I stopped like in
before
end of season 1.
Oh wow, you've
And I
got
was loving it. I
You've
was
got a
loving it.
ride to go on if you stopped at the end of season 1.
Yes. And I was like, and I was telling Tristian, I was like, every episode, like, shit, this stuff just gets better and better.
Yeah,
Then
it's
at one point, I
bonkers.
think I got really busy, and I stopped, and I never continued.
If you're going to Japan, that's pretty far away. You should just download it all and watch it all on the way.
24-hour flight. Yep. Pretty much. I watched probably half the show there. Yeah. So talking about very good shows, and some very good shows to talk about today, and it makes me very happy. On my TikTok, I said, did you know that there is a show that is created and completely directed by legendary director Alfonso Cuarón, one of my personal favorite directors, that is starring Kate Blanchett, Sacha Baron Cohen, there's Leslie Manville, Kevin Kline, Academy Award winner Kevin Kline, Louis Partridge, who is another excellent actor, Cody Smith-McPhee, who I love. I think he's a brilliant actor as well.
Yeah, it's very good.
All of these stars in a show that is created and directed by legendary director Alfonso Cuarón, with a soundtrack, a score by Phineas O'Connell. Can you believe that?
Okay.
And probably the answer from many will be no. I had no idea this existed because Apple TV doesn't market its shit. Yeah. This should be the highlight. Everyone should be talking about the show coming out, but no one knows it exists, which is so sad. It's really, really sad. Anyways, the highest praise I can give for disclaimer that it feels like a very, very long film, but it never feels like it's long. It's just its length is long. I think that's the best thing I can say about disclaimer. Disclaimer is obviously I don't think anyone had any doubt that this was going to be a very, very, very good show. I will say I was a little confused in the first episode what direction the show was going for, because it presents basically 3 narratives. You've got the narrative with Kate Blanchett's character in the present, and Kate Blanchett is actually, it's good to get here. I can just go off from this. Kate Blanchett's character is Catherine Ravenscroft, and she's a television documentary journalist, and she's at the top of her career at the start of the show. And we see how she's receiving these awards, and she's doing very well, and everyone's praising her, and like, yeah, Catherine Ravenscroft is amazing. She's one of the best journalists right now. But then we get a look at a second narrative, and that is the one with Kevin Kline. And Kevin Kline is this very, very fun to watch, kind of like teacher who's just done with teaching, and he's like just telling students that they're shit and that they're awful students, and obviously he's forced to resign as a teacher from his college, and so he goes on this quest to try to destroy Catherine Ravenscroft's career and life, basically. Now, the reasons why are basically the third narrative, which I won't spoil, but basically involve Catherine Ravenscroft's character 20 years prior to the present. And we have a different actress portraying her, and that is Layla George, who I don't know if I've ever seen her in anything else. Layla George, I don't know. I watched Mortal Engines. Why did I watch Mortal Engines? But I don't remember her in that. I don't remember her in that. Anyways, and she's also actually quite solid as well. Of course, she's no Kate Blanchett, but she's also quite solid as a young Kate Blanchett. And there's a whole storyline there with young Catherine and Stephen's son, basically. And that is, of course, Jonathan Brigstock. That's Louis Partridge. And there's a whole storyline there. So there's these 3 storylines, right? These 3 narratives which are going on in the show. And in the first episode, I was a little confused where the whole thing was going. Lots of narration. It's kind of like Terrence Malick narration going on. Franco said, why indeed, Andrea? Glad you're reaching cinema nirvana. Hey, I've improved, Franco. I've improved a lot with regard to not watching bad stuff. working harder on watching, more good stuff. And a big reason why is because I started a course on film studies. So there's lots of good stuff I still have not yet watched, unfortunately, which I have to watch for my film studies course. So that's a good thing about that. Yeah, but I mean, it's well done. It's beautifully directed. The lighting is excellent. Quaron's visuals, as always, so many long takes, and I love the dreamlike visuals that Quaron uses for the scenes portraying stuff that happened 20 years ago. Very important use of sunlight. Very important use of sunlight in this show as well, and the sun as its own character in this show. Very important. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the next episode. By the way, I was talking about episode 1, and by the end of episode 1, I basically understood. There's this final scene where okay, now I get what's going on here. And from episode 2, basically in the whole of episode 2, I finally grasped, and I could completely see what Alfonso Cuarón was going for with this show. I will admit that I'm not the biggest fan of the narration of the characters narrating their stories. But yeah, apart from that, I'm absolutely loving it, and I think this is a very well-made show that everyone should be watching, basically. Yes, Franco, we miss you too. We do miss you too. Joe, are you interested in checking out this show? Disclaimer.
I am, yes. In fact, I just cancelled my Apple TV, but I believe I've got another 20 days before that comes into effect, so I think I might take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend checking it out. Just considering the talent alone, it's worth checking out.
I stupidly realized I'd been paying for Apple TV and not using it for the last 4 months. So I was like, I'm going to stop paying £9 a month for that.
Because I've seen some streaming services when they see you're canceling, offer you a cheaper.
No, Apple didn't. They were just like, "Yep, okay, we don't care." Whereas then, on Amazon, I'll do it all the time because the amount of now other streaming services you can get through Amazon, like Paramount Plus and Shudder, and now there's MGM Plus. There's Studio Canal have films on Amazon which you can get through a subscription service. The amount of ones where I'll just be like, "Oh, I feel like watching this film," and oh shit, it's on Studio Canal. But they go, get 1 week for free, and then it's only $4.99 a month. And I'll sign up for the 1 week, and I'll cancel it immediately. It's like, you can watch for another week, and then I'll just watch what they have. But every time with those ones on Amazon, it's just like, are you sure you want to cancel? We'll give you 6 months for only $3.99.
Love it. Just cancel everything.
Yeah, and a part of me almost goes $3.99 for 6 months. That's working out at how many cents a month? But then it's going no, I'll never use it. And then after 6 months, they'll start charging me £12 for it. In fact, I'm very, very angry with my Amazon Prime at the moment because I thought I only pay for the version, the basic one, where they put ads in stuff now. And in TV series, it's not too bad. It kind of feels like watching TV when I was a kid, where every now and again an advert would come on. Yeah. And it's good for a bathroom break and stuff, but it also does it in fucking films.
Oh god!
And that it I did it when I was watching Lake Mungo the other day. I forgot to mention that I watched Lake Mungo. People go watch Lake Mungo, but it did it during that, and I just shot up from the sofa and I was like, "What the fuck? How dare you put a 2-minute ad in the middle of my film?"
Wow, that sucks.
So I'm gonna look at how much more expensive it would be to not have ads, but I can't imagine it's going to be a very attractive option for how often I use Amazon Prime.
Fair enough. Joe, want to get into the Wild Robot next? We've got a review for the Wild Robot, which, Joe, you also reviewed on your YouTube.
I did. I posted a review just this morning on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, let me just bring that up really quickly so people can see. For some reason on my Opera, I'm not logged in. Because I'm using my university email on this one. That's why I'm not logged in. Yeah, so you can obviously check out Joe's review on the Wild Robot on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, so you can just listen to me now. But no, so the Wild Robot. So this is written and directed by the great Chris Sanders, someone who has had his fingers in a lot of animation pie over the years. I think he worked on Aladdin. I know that he wrote Mulan. He directed Lilo and Stitch. He did How to Train Your Dragon. He did The Croods. He's been all over animation. Very, very big name in that game, respectively. But after a shipwreck, an intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an uninhabited island, and to survive the harsh environment, Roz bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose, or gosling, as they call it in the film. I believe that a baby goose is a gosling, yes. But we have a new film from DreamWorks Animation, and I'll start off with the best thing that DreamWorks are doing is that, unlike Pixar, they have finally changed it up when it comes to their animation style. If anyone saw Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which, by the way, you should, because great animated film.
Brilliant.
This is very similar to that animation style, but it's also different enough where some things look like they're painted in a way, but they're obviously not. This is CG 3D animation, but then it's just got more detail on certain things. You can see the picture of Roz over there. Looks incredible. And it is, to state the obvious, at first, just a beautiful film. Like, seeing this in a theater was incredible. This moment in particular is ridiculous in terms of visuals. These huge, wide open landscapes, and then as I say, like the detail shots and stuff like that. But for the plot, you have this robot who we first meet by, she wakes up from the shipwreck, and she has, like, her whole purpose as this robot, she was created to solve tasks for humans. So she has to have a task which she is assigned, and she has to complete it. And she has this catchphrase of the whole film that nothing is impossible for a Rossum series robot. And when she first starts wandering around the island, she gets attacked multiple times by the many creatures there, doesn't understand them, but eventually learns, like, to pick up basically the dialect of the animals. So at first I thought this was going to be like almost entirely silent, but it's not. There's a huge voice cast with Roz herself played by Lupita Nyong'o. There's Pedro Pascal in this, Kit Connor, Bill Nighy makes an appearance, Mark Hamill, Matt Berry. It's a huge, huge cast in this film, and everyone is fantastic and perfectly placed in this, particularly Catherine O'Hara playing a very grouchy mother possum in this film, which was very funny. And that moves on to my next point. This is obviously an animated film aimed at children. Like, it's certified universal as its rating, but the best animated films are also just films for everyone. When I went to go and watch this film just the other night, I was the only single adult there. It was a packed house of everyone with their respective children. But good to see a packed house for a film like this. And one, it's just like, you can laugh at obviously the physical comedy bits, which are meant to do it for kids, but there's also a lot in there which is definitely just aimed at adults, which is just going to go straight over the kid's head. And it was consistent laughter throughout the film. But the very best thing that this film does, and why it's garnering a lot of praise as the best animated movie of the year, and in my opinion, just one of the best films of the year, is when these films make you feel something. And it does this through its themes. Now, it's got a lot of themes that come to play in the film, particularly ones of obligation and of being a parent, because this robot Roz basically becomes the parent of this young goose who becomes known as Bright Bill. But it also just takes a really big exploration of community and finding friends and love in the most unlikely of places. And with community as well, how banding together is a lot better than being enemies despite those differences. And kind of in the world that we live in today, that can be a very prevalent thing in our society. I think, especially with the internet, we're so ready to put down the opinion of someone we think differently from, just because it's so easy to do it through a screen. And the film reminds you of stuff like this when you get to see parts of, like, the human society that's in this film. And
by the way, Joe, just a second, because we have Hello Space VYX who said, can't wait to see Terrifier 3. Same here. Unfortunately, it's not releasing. Oh, sorry. Oh, we can show comments. Oh, I know.
Oh, yes, we can.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. I'll start using that now. I had no idea this existed. And yes, SBYX said, can't wait to see Terrifier 3. Same thing here. Unfortunately,
yeah, we feel the same.
I live in Malta and it hasn't released in Malta yet, and apparently it's not going to release in Malta. So yeah. Unfortunate indeed.
But yeah, to get back to the talk about its themes and what it does with them, what it really does, this film, because I'd seen many comparisons of this film to something like Bambi, and I guess you can kind of draw those comparisons between it, but I kind of disagree to an extent, because where Bambi is obviously very emotional, because, I mean, spoilers for Bambi, his mother gets killed in front of him in the opening 10 minutes of the film. Bambi is so old by this point. If you haven't seen Bambi, you deserve it. And Bambi is a great film. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. That will not ruin the experience of Bambi, in my opinion. But this is a very different kind of feeling, where I've described it to a couple of people. I think I even told Francesca immediately after watching it. If she's still here, she'll know. The last 30 minutes of this film, I was literally just like, and people who watch the show know I'm no stranger to getting a little bit emotional in a film. I was just fighting back tears in front of a theater full of children who were just enjoying themselves watching this film. And there was definitely an adult next to me who was in the exact same hole that I was in, of just trying not to cry the whole time. But just like, it reached this like kind of emotional climax with about 30 minutes to go. And I was wondering to myself, is this the end of the film? This feels far too quick. And the film is short. It's only an hour and 40 minutes. But then it holds that emotional climax for 30 minutes and then kicks it up a notch, which you don't expect it to do with its final shot of the film. And as I'd said in my review on YouTube, it is just so nice and sweet and wholesome. And the only real nitpick I have of this film, and I forgive it immediately, is that some of the things it wants to portray through its themes, it portrays through some fairly expositional dialogue. But then I go like, look, this is a film definitely aimed at 7 to 11-year-olds, and they're not going to get it if you just keep hinting at it. Sometimes they need to be told, and it's a good thing that they're being told. And that's why I can immediately forgive that nitpick. It is by far and away the best animated film of the year. Like, Inside Out made, I don't know how much money. This, unfortunately, I don't think is going to make anywhere near that, and that's a crime. I feel like now I almost need to be like a shepherd for this film and be like, guys, go see The Wild Robot if you can, because it's just a really great time at the theater. It's not just the best animated film of the year. It has flown into my top 10 so far, and it basically cemented itself there. Beautiful to look at, incredible soundtrack, incredible performances, and just a great fucking time at the cinema.
So apparently it's coming out in Malta. It's coming out on the 18th.
Good. Everyone should go see it. I know that there's Children's Cinema Day coming up, because I told my brother to go and see it, and he's like, yes, I'll take the kids when Cinema Day is on, instead of going to watch Transformers 1, because I think Transformers 1 is coming to streaming very soon as well. So I implore anyone to go and see it, whether you're like me and 30 years old and watching it by yourself in a theater full of children, whether you go with some friends, if you have kids yourself, the perfect opportunity to take them to go and see a really nice film with a really, really great message behind it. Or if you have a niece or a nephew, fucking steal them from your sibling and take them to watch this film. It's really great. I can't wait to watch it again. I think it's going to be one of those like comfort watches for me, where every couple of like months I go back and I watch The Wild Robot, because it's short, it's funny, and it's just great.
Yep. I'm very much looking forward to checking it out. Oh, very much. And I think it's going to be an interesting double header with Smile 2, because Smile 2 comes out on the 18th as well. So that will be a very particular double header.
Yeah.
Wonder which I should watch first, Smile 2 or The Wild Robot.
Yeah, would that be like the new Barbenheimer? What did you call it? The Wild Smile?
The Wild Smile, I like
the
that.
Wild Smobot? I don't know.
So it's the same, I guess it's the same discussion though, right? Do I go in with although you said that The Wild Robot is also very emotionally powerful, so you're going to get out of that probably in tears.
You won't, because you have a black hole where your heart is when it comes to these things. So I think you'll be fine.
Unfortunately.
If
But then
Francesca's
there's
still
smile
listening,
too.
this is going to floor, Francesca. She's gonna be sliding out of the cinema like a slip inside with her tears.
Then there's the smile too of it all, but like, is smile too going to be funny? Is it just going to be like horror?
No, I mean the first one was pretty out and out horror, so I think the second one is going to be the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. We'll see. Depends also on the times, of course. So to conclude the podcast for today, Joe, I guess we can talk a little bit about It's What's Inside. Now, we've had already discussed this a little bit on the chat, but I don't know if you want to introduce the film whilst you're on a roll, and then we'll get into the discussion of it all. It's What's Inside, which obviously released on Netflix last week. Was it a Friday film? I believe so.
I think so, yeah. So It's What's Inside. I'd heard a bit about this, I think, at Sundance, it was, where it premiered. Yes, I'm seeing the banner over there. So this is written and directed by Greg Jardin, I believe his first film. And it's about a group of friends gather for a pre-wedding party that descends into an existential nightmare when an estranged friend arrives with a mysterious game that awakens long-hidden secrets, desires, and grudges. So the kind of TLDR on this one is imagine bodies, but with something like Among Us or Werewolf or Mafia, it's called as well, or Secret Hitler, if you've played that board game as well. Where have you played that board game?
Nope, I haven't.
Great party board game. So basically, yes, you've got these people who are all there for this pre-wedding party. I guess the main character in this, I forget her name, but it's played by Brittany O'Grady.
Oh, let's find out. Shelby,
that was it. Yes, I knew it was something quite strange. Her boyfriend is Cyrus, played by James Morosini. There's a very funny scene when it opens up, which kind of tells you a bit of where their relationship is at. But they gather for this wedding, and you hear about this character named Forbes, who back in the day was known as Game Boy, I think, because he'd always liked coming up with these weird games to play at parties, but apparently he was a bit weird, and his kind of exiling from the group was quite controversial. But he decides to turn up, and he's got this new game for them to play, because now he works for like some company developing these things. And the whole shtick with it is you get hooked up to these like electrodes on your head, and he can basically decide that you guys switch bodies for a period of time, where he first shows it to them with like a quick 20 seconds. And then they all decide, no, we want to play this game where we have to kind of guess who everyone is. So that's where you can see it's the kind of like imposter game, something like Among Us or like Werewolf or something like that. And obviously this is a much bigger thing than like having a card or a character and pretending that you're not a bad guy. This is, you are in someone else's body, so you can imagine how bad that tends to get when then you put how imperfect humans can be in this situation. And that's where it goes a bit like bodies of it all, where the film is definitely playing for tension at certain times, but I think it's definitely playing for a lot of laughs at certain times. Now, where I think I differed from you a little bit in my viewing of this, where the film is very visually appealing and it's edited in a very, very cool way. So I was like kind of like not really switching off my brain, but I was like, this is really fun. I'm just going to have a lot of fun with this one. And I did. I can nitpick certain things. Like in particular, I thought James Morosini, who played Cyrus, wasn't very good at all. I don't like what he was really doing as his character or as an actor. But I like how it went kind of wacky in a way, and it does take a little bit of a while for it to get to that really kind of tension earning part where things start to go really downhill for all these people. And the ending is a little bit like very exposition heavy, because there are like twists and turns all throughout the film, and it is a little bit lazy. But I mean, I had fun. This is one where like I kept thinking, like, if I watched this when I was 14 at a sleepover for like a Halloween weekend or something, we would have all loved this film and would have been talking about it for ages, because it is definitely one of those, I think, for that kind of audience. I don't know what you really think, Andrea.
So I mostly agree with you. I pretty much agree with everything. I just think the negative. I gave more importance to the negatives than you did, to be perfectly honest, because I pretty much agree on everything you said. With regard to the visuals, I completely agree that the visuals in this are great. I think what's the name of the director again?
Greg Jardin.
I think this is his debut feature-length film, right? So I think that's...
And he edited it as well, so it's quite
he
the job.
edited it. He did most of the stuff. He wrote most of it as well, I believe. So considering that, director-writer Greg Jardin, this is a very promising start, especially with regard to his visuals, with his editing techniques. He uses lots of interesting transitions. Overall, I will say I quite enjoyed the visual element of it all. The lighting as well, especially the RGB lighting used as a narrative technique. I very much enjoyed that, and I thought it was very well implemented into the story. What I felt was a big pity from all of this is that the original concept is great for this.
Yeah, it's totally
really interesting. Sorry, Joe?
It's totally batshit, the concept. Like, you need to really suspend...
100%. No. Definitely. But I mean, you're watching a film, right? You're watching a film just to suspend your disbelief anyways. But I do think they could have gone so many directions for the first hour. And in the first hour, it's just teenagers snogging and flirting. And I'm like, I don't really care about any of this.
They're not teenagers. Like, they're meant to be, like, getting married.
Not teenagers. They're 30, actually, yeah.
Yeah, they'd be mid to late 20s, yeah.
But they act like teenagers because they're kind of like remembering their teenage days, and they're remembering their old romances, and I used to be in love with you, and now I can flirt with you because I'm in someone else's body. It just isn't very interesting for me, especially when the performances are, I didn't like any of the performances, to be honest here.
Yeah, I thought Brittany O'Grady is definitely the strongest one. And the guy who played Forbes, I actually don't know his name. Because then he actually has the difficult job of playing the Cyrus character, but obviously in the Forbes body. And I thought he actually did a pretty good job at that. But no, like, I wouldn't say any of the performances are particularly anything to write home about.
And this whole like party culture has never. Maybe I'm going to sound a bit like of a boomer here, but I've never been a big fan of the like massive party culture. Listen, I don't mind going out for a drink or two with my friends. I enjoy it, but I'm just like, I feel like I've outgrown this crowd now. I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm just thinking I'd be so depressed if I was spending time with these people. I hate it so much. So that's my big negative. Forget all of this, is just personal preference. But my big negative is that you have this fascinating concept, right? And you really, at least for the first hour, it really doesn't take it anywhere interesting. And then, after an hour, finally something actually really interesting happens, which is something I could see coming from a mile away, because the music pretty much heralds it for like 2-3 minutes. The classical remixed music really heralds it, like heavily heralds it. So I'm like, okay, who's going to? But yeah, from then onwards, I was like, okay, now we're in, and it suddenly then, for some reason, it turns into a whole clusterfuck of characters in different bodies. Yeah. And I'm trying to keep up. And to be fair, it does, like you said, Joe, there is a lot of exposition involved at the end, where everyone's trying to explain to everyone, and everyone's like, I have no idea who's who. Oh, let me explain to you who's who. So this is him, and this is her, and okay. In a way, I can see that it's annoying because it has to be done, right? It has to be done somehow. Like, there's no way I'm smart enough to keep up with who was who and who was what and whatever. I couldn't keep up with that at the end, especially. So that was a bit of a headache. That's something else I wasn't the biggest fan of. But it's an inevitability, I guess, of this whole concept, right? Which is interesting. I'll give it that. The other element which I disliked a lot, and Joe, you didn't seem to give too much importance to, was the whole moralistic stance that this film seems to take, with one particular character who, admittedly, is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Massive piece of shit. Treats another person horribly and has many issues. but I just don't feel like that person deserved the ending that person got.
Yeah, I'd agree with you in a film which took itself more seriously, but I don't think that this does, in my opinion. I got very much this is very pulpy and poppy and kind of fun, because like even the whole inciting incident, which we won't spoil, is an extremely terrible thing which happens, and they're all kind of like not fine about it, but they're all kind of like being very proactive about dealing with it within minutes, you know?
The thing is, Joe, there's lots of characters do really horrible stuff in this film. And like I was saying with the Penguin, in the Penguin, if anyone does anything at all, any action has a consequence in the Penguin.
Yeah.
Whilst here, it's like some characters literally have zero consequences for some really bad stuff.
Yeah, it's fairly low stakes.
Whilst others, they're like, okay, yes, they were pieces of shit, but oh my god, did they really deserve that?
Yeah.
And again, maybe I'm taking it a bit too seriously, and again, comparing and contrasting this with the Penguin again is not fair.
Yeah.
Right?
And even like a lot of the characters are very caricature-y. Like tropes and stereotypes of like things you expect in these films. Yeah. And you've got the girl who's like really big on Instagram, and then you've got the Caucasian hippie Buddhist, like.
Oh god.
So it is. There's a lot of it that's cliche, but again, like a couple of minutes in, I was like, this seems like it's going to be pretty fun, and it is. I think most people that watch this will just be like, yeah, that was a decent hour and a half to hour and 40 minutes, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree on that. I definitely did not regret my time spent with this. It's 1 hour 30 minutes. It's a fine time. 1 hour 40 minutes actually, I think. No?
Yeah, the concept is really cool. It's actually it's a fresh take on this kind of like imposter, I guess, thriller / horror.
So definitely worth checking out. For me, it had massive potential, right? And I definitely look forward to seeing more from Greg Jardin. I don't know how to say his surname, but I guess Jardin.
Yeah, Jardin.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing more from him, right? Because he is a talented guy. That's definitely clear. That this person is very, very, very talented. I just hope that for their next film, maybe they have someone working with them on the screenplay to maybe sharpen up that screenplay a little bit more. I think that would very much help. But the visuals and the editing, please make sure you edit your film again, because that was some amazing editing. Yeah. Really great stuff. Really, really fun stuff as well. And on all those technical levels, I very much enjoyed this. So yeah, overall, I gave this a 3 out of 5. I think, Joe, what did you give it?
I think it was a 3.5, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so more or less we're there, right? So yeah, it's a fun movie. Again, unfortunate that Netflix barely advertised this at all.
Yeah.
Like I've seen very few people talk about this. A few on TikTok, because that's where I heard about it actually. But apart from that, pretty much no one talking about this, unfortunately. And same thing with Apple when they have Netflix when they have another true crime show about the killer. Oh, everyone knows about it. When they have an actually decent film, no one has heard about it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's the way it is with these streaming shows. But that's it for today, Joe. Do you know if you have anything else to add to that?
No, don't believe I do.
So we can conclude the podcast here. Good solid 1 hour, 20-minute show. Next week, we'll have Smile 2. So we'll have that to talk about next week on the podcast. And I guess more episodes, obviously, of Disclaimer, The Penguin, I Got All Along. We'll get caught up on all of that. And maybe I'll have checked out Wild Robot as well. So I'll give a quick review of the Wild Robot at the start of the podcast, as we always do. So with that, Joe, we can conclude the podcast. Hope you had a good time.
Lovely time. I hope you enjoyed yourself too.
Yes, I did very much so. And I hope all our viewers and listeners enjoyed the podcast. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Hope you had a great time. And we'll see you guys next week, as always, at 8:30 p.m. Central European Time on the Ad Lib Podcast. See you then.
See you then.